The front door slammed like a gunshot in the quiet hacienda, echoing through the sun-baked halls of their ancestral home in the hills of Huelva. Camila Ruiz froze in the kitchen, her knife hovering mid-chop over a half-sliced tomato, the red juice staining her fingers like fresh accusations. "Mama," she called out, her voice cracking like dry earth underfoot, but the only reply was the distant crash of shattering porcelain from upstairs, her mother's favorite vase, the one from Abuela's wedding, now in pieces on the tiled floor. Cecilia Ruiz had always been the unbreakable pillar of their little world, a woman who could wrangle olive harvests from reluctant trees and charm the local bankers into extending one more loan for the failing groves. At 45, she was the heart of this corner of western Spain, where the Atlantic winds whispered secrets through the cork oaks, and the summer stretched long enough to bake regrets into the soul. But that afternoon, as Camila returned from her shift at the seaside cafe in Punta Umbria, she found her mother not tending the garden or poring over ledgers, but collapsed on the edge of her bed, a crumpled letter in her fist and tears carving rivers down her sun-kissed cheeks. "Mama, what happened? Is it the bank again? Did they?" Camilla's words died as Cecilia looked up, her hazel eyes, usually sparkling with that irrepressible American twang she'd picked up from her years studying literature in California, now dulled by a storm Camilla had never seen brewing. Cecilia had come back from the States 20 years ago, pregnant with Camilla after a whirlwind romance that ended in a quiet annulment, determined to raise her daughter amid the familiar rhythms of her Andalusian roots. She'd infused their life with Yankee optimism. Barbecues on the 4th of July under Spanish stars, baseball games broadcast on crackling radios, and stories of wide-open prairies that made the narrow valleys of Huelva feel both confining and enchanted. "It's not the money, mi amor," Cecilia whispered, her voice thick with an accent that blended Seville's lilt with San Francisco's fog. She unfolded the letter with trembling hands, its creases worn from rereading. It's Elena. She's leaving. For good this time." Camilla's stomach twisted. Elena Vargas, the sharp-witted artist from Seville who'd been helping with the estate's renovations for the past 2 years. The woman who lingered too long at dinner tables, her dark curls cascading like midnight vines, her laughter filling the house with a warmth that Camilla had secretly envied. Elena, with her paint-streaked overalls and quiet sketches of the coastline, had become as much a fixture as the ancient fig tree out back. But whispers had followed her, rumors from the village market about those two women, sharing more than just blueprints and borrowed brushes. "Leaving? Why? What does the letter say?" Camilla snatched it, her 17-year-old defiance flaring like a match in the dry air. The words swam before her eyes. "My dearest, see, I can't hide anymore. The world's too small here, and your heart's too big for half measures. Meet me in Madrid if you dare chase this life we've sketched in shadows. Yours always, E." Camilla's breath hitched. Sketched in shadows? Chase this life. It hit her then, sharp as the salt spray from the nearby beaches, a truth she'd glimpsed in stolen glances, in the way Elena's hand brushed Cecilia's when passing a glass of Rioja at sunset. Her mother, the woman who'd taught her to ride waves on rented boards and quote Whitman under the stars, was in love with another woman. Not just any woman, Elena, who baked almond cakes that rivaled Abuela's and sketched Camilla's profile once, calling her a fierce young storm. You're. Camilla couldn't finish, the words lodging like thorns. Betrayal burned hot in her chest, not at the love itself, but at the secrecy, the way it had woven through their days like invisible thread, pulling tighter without her notice. How many nights had she lain awake, wondering why her mother seemed distant, her smiles brittle as autumn leaves. All this time Cecilia had been building a world apart, one that excluded her only daughter. Cecilia rose, crossing the room in 3 strides, her linen dress whispering against the floorboards. She cupped Camilla's face, thumbs brushing away the tears that had escaped despite her fury. "I'm gay, Camilla. I've always been deep down. But I buried it, for you, for the groves, for the life I thought I owed this place. Elena. She saw me. Really saw me. And now she's asking me to choose." Camilla jerked back, the letter fluttering to the floor like a wounded bird. "Choose? Between what? Us? This house? Or her?" Her voice rose, echoing off the whitewashed walls adorned with faded photos. Cecilia as a young woman in Berkeley, wild-haired and free. Baby Camilla in her arms back in Huelva, both of them grinning against the crash of waves. Those images mocked her now, fragments of a story rewritten in Elena's elegant script. The argument erupted like a summer squall, words lashing between them. Camilla accused her mother of selfishness, of unraveling the only family they had left after Papa's ghost had faded years ago. He'd been a fleeting fisherman from Portugal, gone before Camilla could walk. Cecilia countered with pleas of authenticity, her voice breaking as she described the ache of living half a life, the loneliness that Elena's touch had begun to mend. I love you more than the sun loves the sea, mi hija. But I can't drown myself to keep you afloat forever. By dusk, Camilla stormed out, the screen door banging behind her as she fled to the olive groves that sloped down to the Atlantic. The trees stood sentinel, their gnarled trunks twisted by generations of wind, leaves shimmering silver in the fading light. She sank against one, the bark rough against her back, and let the sobs come, raw, wrenching things that shook her slender frame. 17 felt too young for this, too fragile for the weight of a mother's hidden heart. Yet beneath the anger simmered something else, fear. Fear that if Cecilia left, she'd take the last tether to their shared dreams, the expansion of the groves into an ecotourism haven, the bookstore Camilla planned to open in the old stable, filled with American imports and local poetry. Hours passed, the sky bruising purple, before footsteps crunched on the gravel path. Cecilia appeared, silhouetted against the horizon, a wool shawl draped over her shoulders against the evening chill. In her hands she carried 2 mugs of chamomile tea, steam curling like unspoken apologies. I brought your favorite, she said softly, settling beside her daughter. The silence stretched, broken only by the distant call of nightingales and the rhythmic hush of waves far below. Finally Camilla spoke, her voice small. Why didn't you tell me sooner? Thought we were everything to each other. Cecilia sighed, sipping her tea. Because love like this, it's not like the stories we read. It's quiet revolutions, not fireworks. I was scared you'd see me differently. That you'd think I chose her over you. But you are choosing, Camilla whispered, the words a knife's edge. No, mi amor. I'm choosing me. And in doing so, maybe I can be a better mother, a whole one. Cecilia's hand found Camilla's, their fingers lacing like vines seeking sun. For the first time that day, the touch didn't spark retreat. It anchored. They sat there until stars pricked the velvet sky, talking in fits and starts. Cecilia shared fragments of her past. The college crush on a poet named Sarah, dismissed as phased by fearful parents. The marriage to Camilla's father, a desperate grasp at normalcy. Camilla listened, her anger ebbing into a tentative understanding, though questions lingered like fog over the coast. What about the village? The judgmental stares at Mass? And Elena, could she really fit into their world of ledgers and salt-stung air? As they walked back to the hacienda, arm in arm, the path lit by fireflies, Camilla felt the first stirrings of something new. Not acceptance, not yet, but curiosity. The letter lay unanswered on the dresser, a crossroads unchosen. But in the quiet hours before dawn, as sleep claimed them both, the house felt less like a cage and more like a canvas, waiting for bold strokes. The next morning brought uneasy normalcy. Breakfast of fresh bread and figs, the radio humming with flamenco-tinged jazz. A Cecilia innovation. Camilla headed to the cafe, her mind a whirl of half-formed thoughts, while her mother retreated to the studio Elena had helped build, a sunlit room for painting seascapes that captured the wild beauty of Huelva's shores. There, amid turpentine and canvas, Cecilia penned a reply. Madrid calls, but my roots run deep. Come back. Let's paint this together. Days blurred into a fragile rhythm. Elena returned, her arrival announced by the crunch of tires on the drive. She stepped out of her battered Fiat, canvas bag slung over one shoulder, her olive skin glowing from city lights. At 38, she was a force, tall, with eyes like polished onyx and a smile that disarmed like a well-timed punchline. Cecilia, she said, voice husky from the drive, pulling her into an embrace that spoke volumes. Camilla watched from the kitchen window, a dish towel twisted in her hands. The kiss they shared, brief, chaste, a brush of lips under the jasmine arbor, ignited a fresh wave of turmoil. Not revulsion, but a mirror to her own unspoken yearnings. The girl at school with the violin case and quiet laugh, the one whose gaze lingered during biology class. Was this what it felt like then? To love across lines drawn by society? That evening, over paella simmered with saffron and secrets, The three women sat at the long oak table. Elena's presence filled the space, her stories of Madrid galleries weaving magic into the air. "You should come see my exhibit," she urged Cecilia, then turned to Camilla with genuine warmth. "Bring your sketches, kiddo. You've got an eye like your mother's, sees the soul in the waves." Camilla flushed, pushing peas around her plate. "Maybe, if Mama doesn't whisk you off first." The table fell silent, tension coiling like a spring. Cecilia reached across, squeezing Elena's hand, then Camilla's. "No whisking. Not without all of us." But promises like olive branches bend in the wind. A week later, conflict brewed anew when Father Morales from the village church stopped by. His face stern beneath his clerical collar. Word had spread. Gossip from a nosy neighbor who'd glimpsed Elena's car at odd hours. "Cecilia, the flock looks to you as an example," he intoned, his Spanish formal and unyielding. "This arrangement, it's not God's way." Camilla, eavesdropping from the hall, felt her fists clench. Example? Her mother was no saint on a pedestal. She was flesh and fire, a woman who'd crossed oceans for love's sake. Bursting in, she confronted the priest. "God's way? What about mercy? What about letting people breathe?" The old man blinked, taken aback by the girl's fire, and left with murmured blessings that rang hollow. But his visit cracked something open in Camilla. A fierce protectiveness for the woman who'd raised her alone, against odds steeper than the Sierra Morena. Yet betrayal loomed subtle as sea mist. Elena, restless in the rural quiet, began taking weekend trips to Seville for inspiration, her phone buzzing with late-night calls from gallery owners. Cecilia noticed the distance, the way Elena's sketches now featured urban skylines rather than coastal cliffs. "It's just work," Elena assured, but her eyes darted away. Camilla saw it too, and in a moment of misguided loyalty, she confronted Elena one afternoon in the studio. "If you hurt her, I'll make sure you never set foot here again." The words escaped hot and unfiltered, born of fear masquerading as bravery. Elena's laugh was bitter, her brush pausing mid-stroke. "Hurt her? Child, I'm the one bleeding out here. This place, it's a beautiful trap. Your mother's heart is an ocean, but mine's a city street. We don't mix easy." The admission hung heavy, a prelude to fracture. That night, as thunder rolled in from the Atlantic, Camilla lay awake, the storm mirroring the one in her chest. Love, she realized, wasn't a straight path from A to B. It was a labyrinth of choices, each turn revealing hidden doors, and sometimes dead ends. Rain lashed the hacienda's roof like accusations, turning the dirt paths to rivers of mud that snaked toward the sea. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of wet earth and cooling paella. But the warmth stopped at the threshold of Cecilia's heart. Elena's words from the week before echoed in Camilla's mind, a beautiful trap. As she watched her mother pace the living room, phone clutched like a lifeline. "She's not coming back tonight," Cecilia said finally, sinking into the worn armchair by the fireplace. The flame she'd lit did little to chase the chill. At 45, she felt every year in the ache of her bones, the weight of unspoken dreams. The exhibit ran long. Again. Camilla, curled on the sofa with a blanket and a dog-eared copy of The Great Gatsby, Cecilia's old college text, bit her lip. "Mama, maybe it's time to talk about Madrid. Really talk." Cecilia's head snapped up, hazel eyes sharpening. "Madrid? That's her dream, not mine. This is our home, the groves, the waves, you." She gestured vaguely at the room, its walls lined with Elena's paintings. Vibrant abstracts of Huelva's sunsets, now gathering dust in corners. But home felt fractured. It seems pulling apart under the strain of half-truths. The betrayal had started small, Elena's delayed returns, the perfumed scarves left behind that smelled of Seville's jasmine, not their coastal salt. Then came the discovery. A train ticket stub in Elena's bag, dated for a solo trip to Barcelona, slipped in with gallery invites. Cecilia had found it while folding laundry, her hands stilling as realization dawned. Not work. Escape. "I saw the ticket," Cecilia confessed now, voice barely above the rain's roar. "She didn't even hide it well. Like she wanted me to know." Camilla's book tumbled to the floor. "What? And you didn't say anything?" Anger flared anew, but this time it was laced with sorrow, for her mother, the brave woman who'd crossed an ocean twice, once for education and once for motherhood, only to face this quiet unraveling. How could I confront her and she'd bolt? Like your father did. Cecilia's words hung heavy, invoking the ghost of Pedro Ruiz, the Portuguese sailor who charmed her in a Porto bar, promised forever, then vanished with the tide, leaving her adrift in Berkeley with a positive test and a broken heart. Camilla crossed to her mother, kneeling beside the chair. Papa was a coward. Elena. She's not. But she's scared too. Of us. Of this. She waved at the room, the life they'd built from scraps. The ecolodge plan sketched on butcher paper. The community workshop Cecilia hosted for local artists, blending American hustle with Andalusian soul. The storm peaked, lightning fracturing the sky, illuminating Elena's silhouette in the doorway. Soaked to the bone, her curls plastered flat, she stood there like a figure from one of her own canvases, raw, exposed. I heard that, she said, voice steady despite the tremble in her hands. About the ticket. I should explain. Cecilia rose but didn't move to embrace her. Explain? Or excuse? Elena stepped inside, water pooling at her feet, her dark eyes flicking between them. Barcelona was for a meeting with a curator. But yes, I thought about staying. About starting fresh without the weight of expectations. Her gaze settled on Camilla, softening. Not because I don't love you both. Because I do. Fiercely. But love isn't enough when the world's waiting outside these walls. The room crackled with unspoken charges. Camilla felt it then. The pull of divided loyalties. The way Elena's words mirrored her own restless dreams of studying art in Madrid. Far from the Grove's demands. Was she betraying her mother by understanding? By seeing the cage that Cecilia, in her devotion, had gilded but not unlocked? High drama unfolded in the hours that followed. The rain a relentless chorus. Elena unpacked her heart. The pressure of village eyes, the fear that her city pulse would fade in Huelva's slow beat. Cecilia countered with visions of compromise. A shared studio in Seville, weekends in the capital. But beneath it all lurked the deeper wound. Elena's doubt in their future, voiced in a hushed confession to Cecilia later that night, while Camilla pretended to sleep in the next room. I love you, Elena murmured, their hands entwined on the bed's edge. But can we build here without breaking? Cecilia's reply was a whisper. We've already broken. The question is, can we mend? Camilla, ear pressed to the wall, felt tears prick her eyes. Mend? The word evoked Abuela's mending basket. Threads pulled tight over tears in fabric. But hearts weren't cloth, they frayed deeper. Dawn brought a fragile truce. Elena stayed, helping with the morning harvest, her hands deft among the olives, laughter punctuating the labor as she teased Cecilia about her Yankee grip on the baskets. Camilla joined them, the three forming a tentative triad under the clearing sky. For a time it worked. Picnics on the beach, where Elena sketched while Cecilia read aloud from Leaves of Grass, Camilla's head in her mother's lap, the Atlantic a soothing underscore. Yet conflict simmered, bubbling over at the village festival in late summer. The Feria de Huelva pulsed with life. Flamenco skirts swirling like flames, the air thick with grilled sardines and manzanilla wine. Cecilia, radiant in a white dress with red embroidery, danced with Elena under strings of lights, their steps a defiant waltz amid the crowd. Camilla watched from the sidelines, sipping sangria with school friends, pride swelling in her chest. Her mother, brave, unapologetic, looked alive, truly alive. But whispers followed, coiling like smoke. Father Morales cornered them near the tapas tents, his face flushed from wine or righteousness. This display, it's unseemly. Think of your daughter, Cecilia. The example you set. Camilla, overhearing, stepped forward, her chin lifted. The example? Mama's showing me how to live truthfully. What's your excuse for hiding behind robes? The priest sputtered, retreating into the throng, but the damage lingered. That night, back at the hacienda, Elena packed a bag. Not fully, but enough for a breathing space in Seville. Just a week, she promised, kissing Cecilia's forehead. To clear my head. Cecilia nodded, but her eyes were hollow. As Elena's taillights faded down the drive, mother and daughter stood on the porch, the night air heavy with jasmine and salt. She'll come back, Camilla said, more prayer than certainty. Will she? Cecilia's voice broke, and she pulled Camilla into a hug, their tears mingling. In that embrace something shifted. A deepening of their bond, forged in shared vulnerability. Camilla confessed her own confusions. The crush on Sophia, the violinist, whose touch during a school rehearsal had sent sparks through her veins. I get it now, Mama. The hiding. The fear. Cecilia held her tighter. Then don't hide me more. Be the storm you are. The week stretched into 2. Elena's texts growing sparse. Excuses about deadlines, hints of new opportunities. Betrayal crystallized when Cecilia received a package. Elena's key to the hacienda, wrapped in a note. I can't be half in. Forgive me. Find your light without my shadows. Heart shattered, Cecilia retreated to the studio, her paints untouched for days. Camilla took charge, managing the groves with a maturity that belied her years, hiring local hands and pitching their ecolodge to tourists online, infusing it with American flair. Yoga retreats amid the olives, sunset storytelling circles. But evenings brought the ache. Cecilia's silhouette at the window, gazing toward Seville, her once vibrant spirit dimmed. Camilla's own emotions churned. A cocktail of grief for her mother's pain, resentment toward Elena's flight, and a budding resolve to protect what remained. She wrote letters to Elena unsent, pouring out fury and pleas. You saw her soul and still ran. Coward's brushstrokes. Climax crested on a crisp autumn eve, as golden leaves carpeted the groves. Sophia, the violinist, appeared at their gate, nervous, fiddle case in hand, invited by Camilla for a music night that was really a lifeline. As strings wove through the air, mingling with Cecilia's tentative guitar, laughter returned, fragile as first frost. But Elena's shadow loomed. A village friend texted. Saw her at a gallery opening. With someone new. A sculptor, they say. The news hit like a rogue wave. Cecilia, mid-chord, faltered, the guitar slipping from her lap. It's over, she whispered, not to them, but to the ghosts of what might have been. Camilla, seeing the devastation, felt her own heart crack. Betrayal wasn't just Elena's desertion. It was the theft of her mother's joy, the unraveling of the family tapestry they'd only just begun to reweave. In a surge of emotion, she grabbed her phone, dialing Elena's number for the first time. It rang once, twice. Then voicemail. Camilla left a message, raw and unfiltered. You broke her. But we're mending without you. Don't come back. The line went dead, but in Camilla's chest a fire kindled, not of hate but of fierce love. For her mother, for herself, for the truths they'd claim, no matter the cost. Winter crept into Huelva like a cautious guest, frosting the olive leaves and turning the Atlantic's roar to a muffled hush. The hacienda, once echoing with Elena's laughter, now hummed with a quieter symphony. Camilla's playlists of indie folk from California airwaves, Cecilia's soft humming as she revived her painting, strokes bold and unapologetic on canvases that bled emotion. The betrayal had carved deep, but in its wake, something resilient bloomed. A mother-daughter alliance tempered by fire. Cecilia's coming out, once a private thunderclap, rippled outward. She shared her story at the local women's circle, a gathering of farmers' wives and artists in the village hall, her voice steady as she spoke of hidden loves and hard-won light. I thought love meant sacrifice, she told them, hazel eyes scanning faces etched with their own secrets. But real love? It's the courage to claim your piece of sun. Camilla sat in the back, Sophia at her side, their fingers brushing under the table. A tentative Morse code of possibility. Pride swelled in her. This was her mother, not diminished by loss but amplified. Her American-infused humanism shining through the room like lighthouse beam. Whispers followed, of course, the churchgoers' sidelong glances, the market vendors' hushed tones. But for every narrowed eye, there was a hand extended. Maria from the bakery, who'd lost her brother to similar shadows, offering almond tarts in solidarity. Yet drama lingered, a undercurrent pulling at their peace. Elena's absence gnawed, manifesting in dreams that left Cecilia waking with salt on her cheeks. One stormy February night, as hail pelted the roof, a knock shattered the quiet. Elena stood on the porch, thinner, her curls cropped short in a defiant bob, a portfolio under arm. I had to see you, she said, rain dripping from her coat. Both of you. Camilla, who'd answered the door, blocked the threshold, her green eyes flashing. Now? After months of silence? You've got nerve. Elena met her gaze, unflinching. Nerve? Try regret. The city's lights are bright but cold. I thought freedom meant running. Turns out it means facing what you left. Cecilia appeared behind Camilla, shawl clutched tight. Come in, she said, voice even though her hands trembled. They gathered in the kitchen, tea steaming between them like a neutral flag. Elena unrolled her portfolio. Sketches of the hacienda, the groves, Camilla's profile captured in charcoal strokes that revealed a depth the girl hadn't seen in herself. I couldn't paint anything else, Elena admitted. You too, you're my muse. My home. The air thickened with emotion, romance's ghost flickering in Elena's eyes as she reached for Cecilia's hand. But Cecilia pulled back, gentle yet firm. You broke trust, Elena. Not just mine, ours. She nodded at Camilla, who stood sentinel, arms crossed. Camilla's heart raced, conflict tearing at her. Part of her ached for her mother's happiness, remembered the spark Elena had ignited. But betrayal's scar ran deep. She'd seen Cecilia rebuild from ashes, brick by emotional brick. Words are cheap, Camilla said, echoing a line from one of Cecilia's Whitman recitals. Show us. Stay. Help with the lodge opening. Prove you're not just chasing the next horizon. Elena's jaw tightened, but she nodded. A trial then. No promises beyond dawn. Dawn came and Elena stayed. Spring unfurled in tandem with their tentative reconciliation. Groves bursting green, the eco-lodge taking shape with solar panels and guest cabanas, a blend of Andalusian charm and American innovation. Elena threw herself in, her artist's eye transforming the spaces. Murals of waves and stars on bedroom walls, sculpture gardens from driftwood and stone. Evenings brought music. Sophia's violin duetting with Elena's guitar, Camilla and Cecilia harmonizing on old jazz standards, laughter weaving through the notes. Romance rekindled slowly, a slow burn rather than flash fire. Cecilia and Elena shared walks on the beach, hands brushing as they discussed futures not flights. I was scared of the smallness, Elena confessed one twilight, toes digging into wet sand. But you make the world vast. Cecilia smiled, her auburn waves catching the dying light. And you make me brave enough to claim it. Camilla watched from afar, Sophia's head on her shoulder, their own affections blooming in stolen kisses under cork oaks. The drama of betrayal had taught her. Love wasn't possession but presence, choosing daily vulnerably. Yet climax loomed unbidden, in the form of village backlash. The lodge's grand opening drew crowds. Tourists from Madrid, locals curious about the queer haven rumors painted it as. But vandals struck the night before. Graffiti scrawled on cabanas, Sodom y Gomorrah, and slashed tires on the Fiat. Morning brought chaos. Police statements, tearful guests canceling. Cecilia, face pale but set, rallied them. This isn't defeat, she declared in the courtyard. Addressing the gathered workers and friends, Elena at her side, Camilla clutching a protest sign she'd hastily made. It's a call. To stand. To love louder. The village divided. Father Morales decried from the pulpit, but younger voices rose. Maria leading a countermarch, Sophia composing a viral ballad on social media that trended beyond Huelva, drawing supporters from Seville to San Francisco. Media descended, framing Cecilia as the brave olive widow. Her story a beacon of humanistic defiance, infused with that Yankee spirit of reinvention. In the frenzy, Elena faltered once more. A job offer from a Barcelona gallery, tempting with stability. She confessed to Cecilia in the studio, brush in hand. It's security. For us. Cecilia's eyes welled. Us? Or escape? The argument echoed past ones, voices rising amid paint fumes. Camilla, overhearing, burst in, her words a torrent. Don't you dare. You came back for this, for us. If you go, take your shadows with you. Turning to her mother softer. And you, Mama, don't let fear win. You're the one who taught me love's a revolution. Elena's resolve cracked, the offer letter tearing under her fingers. You're right. Both of you. It's messy real. Worth fighting for. The opening proceeded, graffiti covered in murals of unity. Hands of all colors linked against stormy seas. Crowds swelled, not in spite but support. Toasts to resilience, dances under stars that seemed brighter for the scars. In the quiet after, as guests departed, Cecilia pulled Elena close on the porch, their kiss deep with earned tenderness. Camilla, arm around Sophia, joined them. A family forged not by blood alone but by choices. Months later, summer's heat returned, the groves heavy with promise. Cecilia's paintings sold in Seville. Elena's sculptures dotted the lodge gardens. Camilla's bookstore corner thrived with titles on queer icons and Whitman. Betrayal's echo faded, replaced by deeper bonds, romantic, familial, communal. One evening, as fireflies danced, Cecilia raised a glass on the patio. To brave hearts, she toasted, eyes on Elena, then Camilla. And the words that change everything. Camilla clinked her glass, Sophia's hand warm in hers. To us. Whole. In the hills of western Spain, where Atlantic winds carried whispers of change, they stood unbroken. A testament to love's quiet revolutions, humanistic and enduring, under an endless American sky heart.